Hello and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I'm Laura Jones and we're so glad to have you here. We have a great show lined up for you today, including the Speaker of the New Jersey Assembly, Speaker Craig Coughlin. He's standing by. We're also going to be talking to the County Commissioner Director of Monmouth County, Tom Arnone. He is a Republican serving his fourth three-year term on the County Commission. We're going to discuss how the county is using shared services and why they're focusing on tourism post-pandemic. First, we have the head of New Jersey's State Assembly, Speaker Craig Coughlin. He is a Democrat. Coughlin represents New Jersey's 19th legislative district, which serves the Middlesex County municipalities of Carteret, Perth Amboy, Sayreville, South Amboy, and Woodbridge. He has served in the Assembly since 2010 and has been Speaker since 2018. Speaker Coughlin, welcome to the show. It's so good to see you.
Nice to be here, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start off with your role as Speaker. You have the ability to shape New Jersey's legislative agenda. Basically, it's your job to pick what bills make it to the floor for a vote. So can you talk a little bit about some of your legislative priorities?
Sure. Well, thank you for that. It's a pleasure to be with you. And the Speaker has the awesome responsibility of in fact setting the agenda for the Assembly. I think there are 3 or 4 or 5 things that really come to the fore. One of them is to manage things in a fiscally responsible way, and I think we've been doing that, and I think that's one of the things we need to continue, and there's progress in that regard in terms of the governor's budget. The second is to make things more affordable, and I think we can do that in a number of ways that are directly related to supporting everyday working New Jerseyans. One of the things certainly at the top of the list is childcare. We've seen very good growth in terms of people returning back to the workplace. But one of the reasons that it was stalled, and one of the reasons that it is so important that we find a solution to it, is because we need to get people back into the workforce without the hesitation or the challenge of having to figure out how they pay so much for childcare. It's a very expensive proposition. We have, I think, 40% of New Jersey are in childcare deserts, believe it or not. And disproportionately, that affects women. So we're losing their great talents and abilities. And I think one of the other things that we have to do is focus on small business resiliency. Small businesses are backbone of the economy. Most people in the state are employed in small businesses. Now, we've invested about $700 million over the past during the pandemic to try to help businesses. But we have to make sure that we're finding the right kind of things to help them continue to grow, not just as a business, but to bring back employees. It is really about making sure that people are getting back to work in New Jersey. We have any number of proposals from some of our great legislators about how we go about helping them. One of the other things we have to come to grips with is that the pandemic has exacerbated and made very clear to most of us that we have real challenges in the area of mental health, not just for adults, but for young people as well. And we have to invest in that because that is, again, such a detriment to having people achieve their greatest successes. Two of the other things, one for me has been a passion since it's been a passion for a while. I've had the good fortune to care about it and advance an agenda in a meaningful way. Well, since I've been Speaker, is that of food insecurity. And so we're going to have a package that rolls out that talks about providing free lunch and breakfast for all students in the state of New Jersey. And I think lastly, we need to focus on housing. Housing is an incredibly expensive proposition in the state of New Jersey and throughout the entire gamut from buying a house, buying a workforce housing, as we've referred to them there, to finding apartments. And as we move towards the end of this pandemic, the eviction moratorium has been done away with. People are going to face the challenge of finding places, probably with less resources than they had when they looked for them, because they've lost their deposits and things like that.
Well, Governor Murphy recently laid out his budget, the state's budget, $48.9 billion. It's the largest in state history. Everyone seems to be the largest in state history. So the governor proposes, the legislature disposes. So some of the things that you mentioned, does the governor adequately did he adequately address it in his budget?
Well, I mean, look, the governor, there's a lot to like about the governor's budget as we start our review process. And we're going to give it a full and thorough, robust review as we have in the past. One of the things we won't have to have a butt heads over is the tax increase. The governor doesn't have any tax increase in this as a tax or a fee holiday. That's to the tune of about $60 million. Does a lot in terms of strengthening. As I said, we've been faithful stewards at managing the good fortune that we've had. We've spent last time around through the debt defeasance fund. We spent about $2.5 billion, saved about $600 million for New Jersey residents. Governor puts another 1.3 into that fund this time. That lets us pay off more expensive debt and allows us to avoid borrowing when we can. Those are good things. The governor has always been a strong partner in terms of fighting for food insecurity, and I know we can count on him as we go through the process of crafting a new food insecurity agenda for there. So I'm confident of that, as has first Senate President Steve Sweeney, and I know Senate President Scutari now will be a willing partner in that regard, and it gets bipartisan support. So in those areas, I think the governor has certainly working towards helping those other things, housing and small businesses and childcare. I know is important to him. So the budget is in a good place. We'll take we'll take it from here, and inevitably we'll make changes because. No governor gets back a budget they send over, and we'll put our imprint on that budget.
I've heard you mention a couple of times food insecurities, and we were going to get to it a little bit later, but why not talk about it now? Because it's obviously something that's on your mind. So this is something that is very personal, something that a bill that you're sponsoring. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a package of bills, about 9 bills, largely focused on SNAP and SNAP benefits, and with one increase for seniors and disabled folks in the state of New Jersey. We increase the funding for them. At the heart of it is that SNAP program I alluded to before, which expands to provide for free lunch and breakfast for all students in the state of New Jersey, irrespective of whether it's an affluent school district or a less affluent school district, because there are people everywhere that struggle with that. And as I said, that will save money for people in their food budget. But one of the things we have to do is make sure that people understand how important and beneficial SNAP benefits can be. There, only about 70% of the people who are eligible for SNAP benefits take advantage of them. That's a big piece. 30% is a large piece. Now we're going to pick up about 25,000 folks if we change the SNAP benefits to both. We've raised the income level so we get more middle class people involved. We have bills that provide for awareness campaigns and training for county services where many people go to for that. And so that's what we're doing with that food package.
Yeah, well, a lot of people who used to help with food banks are now in need themselves. And on the topic of food, in New Jersey, we have a lot of urban areas, obviously, and you can't find a grocery store. These food deserts. Why is it so hard? Why are supermarkets not coming into these communities?
Well,
how are you looking to address this and to attract these to the communities?
Well, thank you. One of those, look, it's just grocery stores, supermarkets are in the business of making money. I don't know what their analysis is, but it has not led them in sufficient measure to go to those places that are food desert. We've saw what first broke ground last November for the first supermarket in Atlantic City, for example. And one of the things that we did when we did our economic package to incentivize people to come to New Jersey was include food desert relief. So we're trying to fight it that way.
Yeah. One of the other topics I wanted to talk about is something that might be music to high schooler and students' ears, and you have legislation that would let kids sleep in a little bit later. So can you tell me about that?
Sure.
Looking at what time New Jersey high schoolers start.
Sure. Look, the science is there on the issue, right? There's a Rochester study that talks about the impact of students who come to school earlier than say 8:30. The pediatric physician society is in favor of this. The science shows us that high school students need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And we recognize, as we talked about a little earlier, that there is a mental health challenges that we're receiving among young people. All of those things weigh into the science of why we ought to do it. It's pretty clear. We want young adults, young high school students to get involved, right? We want them to be involved in extracurricular activities. We encourage them to get part-time jobs. They have socialization issues in the way they have ever done. Consequently, they end up going to sleep too late and then have to be up really early. And so what the bill does is it sets effective in school year 24-25 that the high school students can start before 8:30 in the morning. The idea is to give them the chance. And when you think of it this way, Laura, two of the things we're proposing: one is breakfast and lunch in school, and one is a later start time. And ask yourself your question: you as a part, any you, the empirical you, are you better off? Are you more productive if you're rested and well fed, or if you're hungry and tired? New Jersey has the best public education system in the country, bar none. Last 2 years in a row, we've been ranked number one. We're always 1, 2, or 3. We invest billions of dollars in it, and then we put kids in a place where they're not necessarily best able to succeed.
Well, and that I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the reasons people come to New Jersey are for the schools, and particularly some of the special needs school. And I speak from personal experience because I have a son, that benefits from a fantastic state-supported school for children with needs. But the state puts so much into K through 12, and then you were also mentioning a little bit about helping businesses. Well, I know we've had New Jersey Business and Industry Association on, and one of the issues business owners are having is finding a workforce. So there's a little bit of a gap between we get our students all the way to 12th grade. Not all the colleges work hard at recruiting them or finding those jobs for them. So are you looking at anything to kind of close that gap?
We have the best public education system. Kids go to school here and then they leave. New Jersey exports more college students than any other state in the country. A few reasons. One, we have the best public education system. Two, it's an affluent state, so parents are better able to afford to send their students to the schools they want to get to. So we're constantly looking at ways to incentivize our higher institutions of higher education. Some of the things that we look to do in that economic incentive bill is to find ways to attract innovation here to the state of New Jersey, right? Work with anchor tenants and work with places, small businesses, the next great innovation, next technology companies, next medical technology companies, all of those things. Those are all designed to keep the brain power that we have. You're 100% right. One of the great assets New Jersey has, what makes us attractive to employers, is the incredibly well-educated workforce. We got to make sure we keep them that way.
Well, I know there's a lot more going on in Trenton and so much more that you're involved with, but we're running out of time. So, Speaker, will you please come back on again so we can talk about more that is happening in Trenton?
Deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Our next guest is the Monmouth County Commissioner Director, Tom Arnone. He oversees the county's Department of Public Works and Engineering and also serves as the liaison to public information, tourism, and several other county boards. Welcome, Commissioner Arnone. It's good to see you.
Welcome. How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm really doing well, Well, I sound like a broken record, but the cost of living in New Jersey, it's among the highest in the nation. But your county, you've been working on some shared services amongst towns. For example, Monmouth County shares police and fire dispatcher. It's handling calls for about 40 towns, and that saves Middletown about $1 million per year. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works and what you're doing in other areas?
So thank you. And thank you for having me on too, Laura. This year, it's really special, and it's really just a little bit of thinking out of the box. As I think we spoke before, for years, for 15 years. I was a councilman for 7 years and a mayor for 8 prior to that. And I looked at that scope of how government could kind of work if entities work together. And there's only one way that can happen. And it's not consolidation or any of those areas. What it is, it's sharing services that can reduce. And in our case, our model is very simple, which I'll get to. It's save costs for the municipalities, obviously the smaller entity, and have a revenue base for the county, which is a larger base. And then, of course, pass on that savings to the taxpayers of the county, which encumbers that municipality, and that municipality having that savings in their own little municipality.
Yeah, people want to save money, but when push comes to shove, they don't always like giving up their local fire chief, their local individuals who they're used to talking to. So you're saying sharing services, the way you work it is different than consolidation. It's different than regionalization, because those things 100%. Scare a lot of people. So 100%. How is it different?
100%. So Monmouth County has 53 municipalities. And what our model is we want to be there, whether it is in our with our Sheriff Golden, his great program with his 911 dispatching center, being part of the fire districts, being part of all the emergency services, offering them the service to dispatch for them, which is a huge savings. Take those resources, put it back into your municipality that you kind of limited because of the cost of those dispatching services. Go into public works areas, go into human service areas, social services areas, bridge work, all those entities to shared service. And the model is very simple. If shade tree is another big one too, and road paving is another big one too, and parking lots. Go out, the municipality, go out and get a price for it, see what it actually will cost your taxpayers for an essential service that you would have to do. It's not a wish list, an essential thing that you would have to do. See what that number is, come to the county, let the county bid it, and then hopefully it will be a huge, huge savings. So the taxpayers of that municipality will see a savings. We take that revenue, we pass it into our tax rate base, and it's a double savings. Perfect example on a small version is I had a municipality call me up and they needed this gigantic, gigantic tree taken down in front of their municipal building. Well, it had to be taken down because there was a safety issue. So the taxpayers absolutely would absorb that cost. So what I asked the mayor to do, go out and get a price, which he did. The price was like $3,200. We, in return, came there, and our shade tree committee came there. Shade tree department went there, and we only charge for administrative costs, meaning what we charge for our staff to be there. There's no profit based or anything to that model, added to that model. We came in there at $900.
But not every county does this. I don't know of other counties that do it. Are you in contact with other counties, and what are some of the roadblocks, so to speak, when you want to, because there's so many factors that play into it that stop these collaborations from happening?
Well, I will tell you, obviously we can't hide the fact that politics comes into play here. The positive thing about us is in our 53 municipalities, we're very, very split, whether it's Democrat, Republican, independent, we're very split. But the one thing that's common through all that is we work with every mayor here in Monmouth County. And, we're a Republican controlled board, but if you were to ask any of the mayors on the opposite party, they have a fabulous, fabulous working relationship with us. And there's not one that would say different. And I wouldn't say this because obviously it could come back to bite me if I felt that it would. So I wouldn't say it, but and truly that's the only way it's going to work.
All right. Well, you touched a little bit on roads. So on the topic of infrastructure, you've been able to actually leverage some federal dollars to help with some infrastructure improvements. So what types of improvements are being done? We're coming out of the winter season, lots of potholes on the road. Right. People are going to be heading down there for the summer season to get down to the shore. So what types of improvements are you working on?
The complicated situation in Monmouth County is we have about 1,000 miles of lanes of roads and about 900 bridges. So all the bridges are pretty much, unless they're state bridges, they're county bridges. You really don't have any municipality bridges. So what encumbers there, and which I have stressed with my fellow commissioners, is we cannot be the government that kicks the can down the road. we have to hit these projects head on, knowing that for the people that are going to sit in our seats later on, that we've done the right thing, the prudent thing, and move forward with our infrastructure. And infrastructure is a key to a cost savings in the long run, as long as you have a plan. So every year we allocate out of our budget roughly about 28 million for road improvement projects. But more importantly, when you get into the larger projects, which are the bridges, I sit on the NJTPA as a representative there, and we've leveraged a lot of our resources to get funding. Right now, we're doing a large project, the Rumson Seabright Bridge. There, we received close to 70 million in funding there. We're about to embark. We're doing a large program in Freehold Township, 32 million. All this was federally funded through the NJTPA. Us working with our engineer Joe Ator, my administrator Terry O'Connor, with the support of my fellow commissioners, we have been able to do that. Transportation Trust Fund is a large component to be able to receive funding. For many years, we only received a small portion, maybe close to like 5 million, 4 million or $5 million there. We lobbied very hard to show that instead of going by the deck size, we went by the length, and we won that debate. And now we're receiving $10 million a year to do essential work there, emergency type repairs, which happens all the time. And we have some large projects we're about to embark in. The Glimmerglass Bridge, which will roughly be about another 60 to $80 million project. Then we have the Oceanic Bridge, will probably be one of the largest bridges in the whole East Coast to once that gets into design period. And that's going to be roughly anywhere from 175 million to $200 million project.
You sound like a very good advocate, a very successful advocate for the county, and you are a Republican, Democratic-controlled state, and you were also even awarded grants of up to $500,000 for nonprofit agencies. So, can you talk a little bit about how that money helps communities around your county,
yes.
and also those relationships, your advocacy work to get this?
So yes, and are you talking about the recovery money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, we actually first received $108 million when the pandemic first came, and we were very fortunate. And I really did not want this money to leave the county of Monmouth. Along with my fellow commissioners, we fought very hard to put a very, very big plan together. And how we worked at is we worked with all 53 municipalities to reimburse them for their COVID related expenses. That amount to roughly about $30 million. Then we looked at our businesses that were struggling tremendously. So what we did is we put allocated $10,000 per business to our small businesses through an application process. We not only gave them 10,000, we came back for a second round of another 10,000. We gave out about $48 million in funding to our small businesses. Then we worked with our nonprofits there to absorb some of the others, then some of our county projects. Right after that, we received recovery money. Right now, we received roughly $60 million in funding. We just allocated $20 million to nonprofits. We geared it to 5 different types of organizations: nonprofits, veterans, the food banks, and animal welfare, and special needs. What it does, it just shows that Monmouth County, or at least our thought process, to make sure that our residents, our businesses, our towns, our nonprofits, all those areas know that their county is working for them.
Yeah. You yourself are really involved on tourism. I always love talking about tourism. It's one of the state's biggest economic drivers, and now there's a lot of focus on tourism. Summer is coming, so can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there? Because people will be coming.
Tourism is a domino effect. I mean, if we start and if we do the right thing internally here by marketing, getting our travel guides out there, which sponsors our businesses, attending shows, being able to promote what we have here in Monmouth County, and then we put it all on our website, market our website, we move forward with any ability to showcase, not Monmouth County, but the broad spectrum of Monmouth County, which incorporates all those businesses and, more importantly, our municipalities, our beach towns, all the other areas, our industry out in the western part of the county, all those areas that will again travel down for people to come here and then frequent our businesses.
And you have something, and you also have something else called Made in Monmouth. So just final thoughts a little bit about what Made in, and is that part of it, part of the tourism drive, Made in Monmouth?
So that is something that's very special to me. I created that 10 years ago there, and what we did is we started Grow Monmouth. Ironically, it's working because we started Grow Monmouth. The state followed back with Grow New Jersey. Then we started with Made in Monmouth. The state has Made in Monmouth. We have, and so all those things seem to be working pretty good. But the Made in Monmouth on April 30th from 10 to 4 at our county community college, Brookdale University, we open it up free to any business that manufactures or produces or makes anything here in Monmouth County. I will tell you, it is by far, one of the most successful events that we have. And I will tell you this, there will be close to 200 businesses, from 180 to 200 businesses here. There will be roughly 5,000 people that will come in that door that day. And some of the businesses say it is one of their best Saturdays they have all year.
All right. Well, something exciting to look forward to as the weather turns and we get closer and closer to summertime. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I can't thank you enough for allowing us to be able to showcase Monmouth County, some of the good things that we're doing. And so, I want to thank everybody involved there and thank yourself too.
Well, I look forward to coming down there this summer and I'll stop by and say hello.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye. And that will do it for today. Thank you so much for watching New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I'm Laura Jones, and we will see you next time.